Introduction. Word by word, perfection. Welcome to Truth Uncovered. This isn't just another channel, and this isn't just another video. What you're about to watch isn't fluff. It's not gimmicks. It's a brutal dose of clarity. Today, we're not just talking about how to handle rejection from a woman. We're talking about how to destroy the illusion of power she thinks she has over you. We're going to break down the very moment she goes silent and turn it into your greatest opportunity for strength, growth, and dominance. You came here wondering what to do when she ignores you. But the real question is, how do you use her silence to awaken the most powerful version of yourself? Because here's what no one tells you. When a woman ignores you, it's not always personal, but your reaction to that moment defines everything. Your identity, your strength, your direction. So in this video, we go deep. This isn't about petty revenge. This isn't about playing games. This is about something far more powerful. Self-mastery. You're going to learn how to disarm her silent tests, control the emotional storm that most men drown in, rise as someone who no longer reacts, but chooses. This is the Stoic path. And by the end of this video, if you pay attention, not only will you know exactly how to flip the script, but you'll begin to understand how indifference, when mastered, becomes your greatest weapon. Let's begin. Part 1. Why she ignores you and why it doesn't matter. You're staring at your phone again. The message you sent, still marked as delivered. The read receipt, never came. No reply. No explanation. Just silence. And suddenly your mind races. Was I too eager? Did I say something wrong? What changed? You replay conversations, overanalyze her last message. Wonder if that joke you sent was too much, or not enough. You start to question yourself, doubt your instincts, and your confidence begins to erode. But stop, right here. Let me break something to you, raw and real. Her silence is not about you. It's about her. And the faster you accept that, the faster you take your power back. Here's the hard truth that most men refuse to acknowledge. Women test you. Constantly. Not with words, not directly, but through actions. Through absence. Through silence. Through unpredictability. Through resistance. These aren't accidents. They're emotional pressure points. She wants to see how you'll respond when you feel ignored, unvalidated, uncertain. Why? Because that's how she finds out what kind of man you are. Does your confidence crack when she's not giving you attention? Do you spiral, get needy, or chase? Or do you stand still, calm, unmoved, unshaken? That's the real test. That's the real game. And here's the key you must burn into your mind. What she does doesn't matter. How you respond. That's everything. The illusion of control. In the chaos of modern dating, there's a battlefield of ego, control, and validation. Sometimes she ignores you because she's genuinely busy, work, family, life. Other times she's testing your reaction, pulling away to see if you'll chase. And then there are times she's just not as interested as you thought. But here's the game-changing insight. None of those reasons matter. Not one. Why? Because focusing on her why places all your attention on something you can't control. And in Stoicism, that's a cardinal sin. The moment you start obsessing over her actions, her silence, her timing, her decisions, you surrender the one thing you actually have power over. Yourself. Your emotional state. Your energy. Your response. The man who waits by his phone, checking every 5 minutes, hoping for a reply, is not in control. He's a prisoner, a slave to attention. And whether he realizes it or not, he's handed his power away. You don't want to be that man. And after today, you won't be. Because today, you reclaim that power. Not through manipulation, not through ego, but through stoic indifference. Let me show you how. What Stoicism teaches you about her silence. The Stoics, men like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, taught a simple but profound truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius. You can't control whether she texts you back. You can't control how she feels about you. You can't control the games, the mixed signals, the silence. But what you can control is how you move forward. And that control, that discipline, creates a shift. Instead of being a reactor to her silence, you become the architect of your own composure. You stop reaching out. You stop chasing. You stop asking, why hasn't she replied? Instead, you do nothing. Nothing is everything. Let me be clear. Doing nothing isn't weakness. It's the ultimate display of strength. Most men, when ignored, panic. They send another message. They get emotional. They lash out. They try to fix it. But the Stoic man, he sits in the silence. He observes. He remains centered. By doing nothing, you're making a powerful statement. Your silence doesn't define me. My value is not determined by your attention. And ironically, that's exactly what makes you stand out. Because most men will chase. You won't. Most men get emotional. You stay calm. Most men seek answers. You already have yours. You don't need her to validate you. And when she realizes she can't shake you, she starts to wonder why. She questions what makes you different. She reconsiders her silence. Because what's rare is respected. And in a world full of reaction, your stillness becomes unforgettable. Part 2. Control what you can. Reclaim your power through discipline. Let's get one thing straight. You're not here to win her back. You're not here to prove your worth to a woman who doesn't see it. You're here for something greater, to reclaim your sovereignty. See, when she pulls away, when she ignores you, it's like an emotional vacuum. Your mind wants to fill the silence. It wants closure, answers, resolution. But most men make the fatal mistake of chasing clarity from someone who benefits from their confusion. So what do? You flip the script. You shift the focus. You stop wasting time trying to understand her silence, and instead, you master your own. Because here's the truth few will tell you. The man who controls his emotions controls the game. The shift. From external to internal. Everything in life falls into two categories. What you can control, what you can't. You can't control her behavior. You can't control how quickly she responds, what she's thinking, or who she's texting. But here's what you can control. How you respond. Where your energy goes. What you build when she pulls away. This is the Stoic's path. When a woman withdraws, 99% of men go outward. They panic, chase, question, spiral. But the 1%? They go inward. They use that emotional tension as fuel. They hit the gym with more intensity. They build their craft. They deepen their focus. They let rejection sharpen their edge. They don't try to escape the silence. They conquer it. And that's the man she never forgets. From desperation to domination. Understand this. Her ignoring you, that's not a loss. It's an invitation to upgrade, to become more centered, more dangerous, more disciplined, to be the kind of man who doesn't flinch when someone withdraws because he knows his mission is bigger than her presence. Let me ask you, where were you pouring your energy before she stopped replying? Into wondering how she felt? Into second-guessing your texts? Into trying to be just right? All of that stops now. You no longer exist to impress. You exist to express, fully, unapologetically, and without dependence on anyone's response. That's the difference between the man who reacts and the man who leads. And in relationships, the man who leads wins. Not because he dominates her, but because he refuses to abandon himself. Starve the ego. Now here's where it gets real. The part of you that wants to reach out again, that voice whispering, just one more message. Maybe she didn't see it. That's not your soul speaking. That's your ego. Your ego thrives on validation. It craves certainty. It wants to be wanted. But if you feed that ego by chasing her, you only reinforce its weakness. The Stoic path demands the opposite. It requires you to starve that need, to silence the impulse, to train your emotional reflex like a warrior trains his sword. That doesn't mean you become cold or emotionless. It means you become selectively responsive, measured, intentional, powerful. You stop handing people a remote control to your self-worth. And when you do that, you become unpredictable, dangerous, magnetic. Because now, you're no longer reacting to the world, you're shaping it. The power of no contact, not as a game, but as a weapon. Let's talk tactics for a moment. What should you do when she ignores you? Nothing. But more specifically, no contact. Now don't get it twisted. No contact is not a manipulation tactic. It's not about punishing her or making her miss you. It's a self-respect protocol. You withdraw your attention not to provoke, but to protect, to guard your energy, to return to your purpose, to break the addiction to her validation. The moment she goes silent, you go silent too. Not in anger, not in bitterness, but in discipline. Because your value doesn't beg. It doesn't plead. It doesn't remind her of what she's missing. Your value is felt in your absence. And if she's the right one, she'll notice. But if she's not, even better. Because now you've made space for someone who sees you without needing to lose you first. No contact isn't about making her regret. It's about making you remember. Remember your power. Remember your focus. Remember your mission. Rebuild from the inside out. This is where most men stop. They think ignoring her back is enough. But Stoicism goes deeper. It's not about silence, it's about structure. When her attention fades, you build. You ask yourself, what am I building that has nothing to do with her? What parts of me got exposed when she went quiet? What emotional muscles am I now being forced to strengthen? Rejection reveals what still needs to be refined. So you refine your body. Get stronger. Your mind. Read, reflect, write. Your purpose. Realign with your highest goals. You become a man who uses pain, not as a prison, but as a forge. Let her absence be your anvil. Let the silence become your sharpening stone. Because the man who walks through emotional fire and doesn't burn, he becomes untouchable. Part 3. Indifference, the weapon that breaks her and builds you. Let's tell the truth no one tells you. A man's most attractive quality isn't charm, it's indifference rooted in purpose. You want to shake her awake? You want her to feel your presence without saying a word? Then you master the power of not caring. Now don't confuse this with bitterness. Indifference is not coldness. It's not pretending not to care. It's actually not needing to. Because when your purpose is sharp, when your time is sacred, when your presence is a privilege, not a plea, her ignoring you, it doesn't sting. It liberates you. The scarcity trap. Most men lose the battle before it begins, because they're operating from scarcity. She's special. She's the one. If I lose her, I won't find anyone like her again. Let me dismantle that right now. She's not rare. Your perception is. What makes her feel irreplaceable isn't her, it's the lack of options in you. Scarcity creates obsession, but indifference is born from abundance. And abundance doesn't mean having 10 women waiting in your DMs. It means you know your value doesn't shrink just because one person couldn't see it. That's power. That's freedom. That's when you stop chasing and start attracting. Emotional cold showers. Here's the brutal truth. You being nice doesn't make her stay. You being available doesn't make her value you. In fact, the more you overextend, the more she pulls away. Why? Because availability without boundaries breeds contempt. Think about it. If every time she disappears, you're still there waiting, if every time she pulls back, you move closer, you're training her to disrespect you. But when you respond with indifference, when her silence is met with your focus, it shocks the system. She's used to men chasing. She's used to power. She's used to controlling the frame. But when she meets a man who can walk away with no flinch, she feels something deeper than attraction. She feels respect, and that's where the game changes. Frame is everything you want to win back your power, then stop reacting. Start framing. A woman can sense when you're living for her validation, when your day rises and falls by whether she texts back. She may not say it out loud, but it makes her lose respect. You've given up the frame. But the man who doesn't need her, the man who lives in mission mode, the man whose energy is rooted, grounded, untouchable, that man doesn't chase, he doesn't explain, he doesn't ask for attention, he lets his absence do the talking. And that's a language every woman understands. Emotional bankruptcy. Let's break this down. Every time you check her story, every time you reread the texts, every time you replay memories, imagining what you should have done differently, you're making emotional withdrawals. You're overdrafting on your own soul. And eventually, you go emotionally bankrupt. That's when the depression creeps in, the anxiety, the shame. But indifference saves you from that. It's not about being numb. It's about knowing where your attention belongs. She doesn't get your mental energy if she doesn't value your physical presence, because your focus is currency. And a king doesn't spend where he's not honored. Kill the fantasy. Here's a hard truth you need to swallow. You're not addicted to her. You're addicted to the fantasy of who she could have been. You're clinging to a version of her that maybe never existed. You remember the laughs, the connection, the way she looked at you, but you forget the mixed signals, the disrespect, the way she faded without explanation. Stop grieving a ghost. The real her already showed up. The real her ignored you. And the man on a mission doesn't romanticize rejection. He recognizes it. He thanks it. He learns from it. And then he moves on. Because your future deserves a version of you that isn't trapped in the past. Identity alchemy. Become untouchable. Indifference isn't a technique. It's a transformation. It's not about acting like you don't care. It's about becoming a man who's too focused, too fulfilled, too high value to care about temporary attention. You're building a version of you that doesn't flinch at silence. A version that thrives on rejection. A version that never chases what's fading. He replaces it with purpose. Because at the end of the day, a woman ignoring you doesn't define you. How you respond does. Part 4. When she comes back, stay grounded, not grateful. Let's get one thing straight. If she comes back after ignoring you, it's not fate, it's not love, it's not a miracle, it's a test. A test of everything you've built since she left. Because the old you would have jumped. The old you would have smiled at your screen and said, finally. But the man who's walked through the fire of indifference, who's sharpened himself through rejection, who's buried the fantasy and built the truth. That man doesn't flinch when she returns. He evaluates. He observes. He holds the line. Read the intent, not the text. Here's what you need to understand. When she texts, "Hey, been thinking about you," or drops a like after months of silence, or replies to your story with a subtle or "lol," it's not always an invitation. Sometimes it's a temperature check. She's checking if she still has access. You still care. She can still control the frame. Don't read her words, read her intent. And her intent is simple. Can I still pull this man out of his power? But if you've done the work, if you've anchored yourself in discipline, built indifference into your DNA, and raised your standards beyond crumbs, you'll know exactly how to respond. You don't. Because silence is clarity. And your silence this time doesn't come from pain. It comes from peace. Don't reward inconsistency. You want a deep truth. How someone returns is as important as why they left. If she ghosted you, if she ignored your presence, if she withdrew without explanation or respect. And now she's back casually, like nothing happened. That's not romance. That's audacity. And if you respond with warmth, eagerness, or desperation, you're rewarding inconsistency. You're teaching her that she can leave, vanish, treat you like an option, and still come back to a man who treats her like a priority. That's not power. That's emotional slavery, and you're better than that now. The only acceptable return. Let's be clear. People make mistakes. Sometimes life gets in the way. Sometimes silence is survival, not rejection. But her return must come with one thing: accountability. Not just, hey, how are you? But, I know I disappeared and I shouldn't have. I understand if you've moved on. She doesn't need to beg, but she must own her absence, because if there's no reflection, there's no growth. And if there's no growth, it's just a cycle waiting to repeat. So when she comes back, you don't get excited. You get still. You read the energy. You read the intention. You read the truth. And if it doesn't align with your values, you walk away. Again. And this time, without a backward glance. Protect your peace. Like a fortress. You've come too far to let this shake you. You've bled for this version of yourself. You've clawed your way out of fantasy. You've traded comfort for clarity. So when she returns, remember, your peace is not a gift. It's a fortress. You don't open the gates for curiosity. You don't let in what once left. You protect your focus, your time, your emotions, like sacred territory. Because not everyone deserves access. Especially not those who vanished without cause. This is bigger than her. Here's the truth no one says. This journey, it was never about her. She was just the catalyst. It was about you, finding yourself, reclaiming your voice, remembering that you are the prize. So when she comes back, she's not coming back to the same man. She's not coming back to the boy who begged, who waited, who hoped. She's coming back to a man who knows his value and doesn't negotiate it. And that's what makes her feel the weight of her own absence. That's what breaks her ego. That's what forces her to confront what she lost. But by then, you'll already be gone, not physically, but energetically. Because now, you've moved on to a life so powerful, so purposeful, so full, that even if she came back offering the world, it still wouldn't compare to the kingdom you built alone. Final words, the man who never waits. Let's end this the way it began, with truth. A woman ignoring you is not the end of the world. It's the beginning of your awakening. Because rejection, that was your permission to let go, to upgrade, to become untouchable. And the man who becomes untouchable, he never waits. He builds, he transforms, he silences the noise with results. And when she realizes what she lost, she won't find the same man, because by then you'll be too far gone. Not bitter, not angry, just too evolved to ever go back.